Right, so while Mr. Chippy's away, we'll do another new set off the pile. This is fresh from the wholesalers. It's the Barry 2. We did the Barry 1 last week. And once again, it comes with a 2 to 3 year warranty. Not sure how that works, because once we've been inside it, that will be invalidated. This is clearly going to be a set that has nothing inside it. We're going to go inside it anyway. And I've got 8 minutes to start this video before going on a shopping trip for a parishioner. We've also acquired the full service manual for this set, even though it's a current model, and I'm not allowed to tell you how to get into the menu, or they will cut me off as a dealer. So you'll have to find your own way around that, but you press 3 things on switch on. 3 things on switch on. And it's probably very similar to some of the other ones we do. So if I find my way around a set, then of course I'm free to divulge that information. But if they send me the service manual first, I can tell you all the proper ins and outs, but not how to get into that menu. So we get the DAF sticker. Oh, and no cigarette lighter plug, good. That means it's a proper install and not a temporary one. And then somehow we have to kind of go under this box to find the mic. And drop the accessory pack on the floor. There'll be a right pile of sets for Mr. Chippy to test when he comes back. I'll get him to do 2 a day instead of 1. Oh, that's under that rubber bung, which I'm not sure how you get out. Under that rubber bung is a USB socket to charge your whatever, power your sat-nav from. So take that adapter off because we're doing business radios yesterday. I will open it up first and then we can see inside it. Probably have to be putting this back on immediately. So we'll zoom in on that. And I'll put my other glasses on. So this is another set which has a relay, which I think is going to be for the public address facility that it has. So you've got the little 2.5mm socket is for Vox, it says. Then public address and extension speaker. Wide in mains lead, made in People's Republic of China. So I don't think this is going to be Uniden. So the number looks like PPB, it looks like 102A, but it could be PP8102A on the board. Perhaps if we zoom in a bit further, we might see that better on the camera than what I can see. So no adjustments, we'll put that back together. So it's all done from the hidden menu. think there's a new President Taylor out. Our wholesalers haven't got it, but it could be out in some areas, and it retains the classic meter, which is nice. So we'll plug that into the test equipment. Start with the aerial connector, the extension speaker socket, and we'll connect it to our normal 2.5 amp power supply. The 18 amp power supply we have doesn't have current limiting as such. It would certainly limit if it went over the 18 amps, but we want better control over most sets. So, and this is digital instrumentation. So it's on an LED display, and a lot of power supplies are LCD display when they've got digital displays, and you can't see them on all angles, you know, are LCDs, and it's so much easier having an LED one. Right, so we're powered up. We're not powered up. We are, it's there. And of course it comes on in EU mode. So we're going to test it in EU mode, because when we go through the service manuals and do all these adjustments, that's how it's going to be. And then we'll test it on CP on UK later. So 6-pin communications connector, which is good. Mode AM FM, which is what you'd expect. Yep. So we'll see how it's performing on receive. I don't think anything I'm going to be doing to it will alter that. I've put 27205 in on the signal generator. We'll turn the squelch down, and straight away we'll look at the cyanide meter. So I'm selecting picture in picture right now. And for 12 decibel cyanide, it's doing 0.31 microvolts on that scale, and on the other scale, it's right on the between scales, is 0.295. So we can call it 0.3 microvolts quite safely for 12 decibel cyanide. Just turn the volume down to annoy some people. Right, so this is a 24 volt set. It says so here, 13.2, 26.4. So that could well be a set that does its same transmit over the entire voltage range. So what I was looking at is what they were expecting. And they were expecting on FM 0.35 microvolts for 20 decibel cyanide. I just do think that's a bit far-fetched, but let's see how we can do that. So we'll turn the volume back up again. So let's get it to 20. So to get 20, we are doing 0.6 microvolts. There you go. I've said this before, we can also select this test set into PD mode, in which case it will be more generous. 0.25 microvolts for 20 decibel cyanide, and if you ask me, that's what they're using, but I use it on the much stricter EMF mode, so it's scratchier. You know, this is how it is, isn't it? This doesn't say how they've measured that, in which mode, and it's like hi-fi amplifiers. You know, you can end up with can you remember the days of Dixon selling hi-fis before it was Curry's? And you could go into Tandies. Remember Tandies? And they had to state things in RMS, root mean squared, real amplifier power, the DIN standard for Europe. And you'd go into Tandies, and there'd be a bit of a stereo system which said 10 watts output per channel, RMS, which is great. Then you go to Dixon's, and the very same system's 120 watts because they've manipulated the figures into both channels fully driven into total harmonic distortion of 50% or something stupid like that. And this is how this is. And this is the same goes with the power, isn't it? I mean, we're telling you, when we tell you the powers, we're telling you what's on 27 megs, basically, and not all the other filth. So, talking of powers, as it's come out of the box, we'll go over to the power meter, and what's the guessing? It's 3 watts. Well, I'm placing my bets on that. So switch to 3 watt mode. It's just over the 3 watts. It's like 3.0 something. So that's something which also gets addressed. Shall we say the deviation will be 1.6? I will just have to set this because we've been on a different band. And I think we just saw 1.8 by bellowing it at it. So that's our initial overview. We've got auto squelch, channel up and down there. So it's got a real, actually, yeah, it's got a real squelch control, and that to me is a plus point. Let's see how this meter performs, because this won't be adjustable, I am sure. So 100 microvolts in should be S9, but it isn't. Well, it's just 2 bars, isn't it? So if we go up to 300 microvolts, we get 3 bars, and if we put it up to 3 millivolts, we get 4 bars. So pretty meaningless. And let's go into transmit. It probably tells us 4 because it's programmed to do so. So I doubt that's a real RF meter anyway. So noise blanker on a second function. Well, I don't know what we're storing on there. Let's see how we get into PA. I want to hear that relay click. And then I'll go and deal with Mrs. What's-her-name and do her shopping. This one has me shop at Morrison's supermarket, where there's decent prices and decent quality. The one has me shop at Marks and Flipping Spencer's at 3 times the price. It really bugs me. See, as a Yorkshireman, I was brought up that it doesn't matter how much money you've got, you try and hang on to it. So you can put a different channel in for emergency channel, it seems. Noise blanker and compander. So that's going to be a speech processor. Compander's long press. There we go. And does it change the synad? No. Does it change the deviation? Wallow. Probably. Probably more likely to be 1.8. That'll be something to play with when Mr. Chippy's back so we can actually hear it. That's got rid of those. I'm not going to play with Vox because we've nothing plugged in. Timeout timer. Roger bleep, how wonderful. Key bleep. Oh, colour, that's a good one. Mode plus emergency key. Perhaps you switch it on with that. I'm not reading the book. Yep. I want it in green. What do we do to store that? Okay, read the book. Press S5 long press. So let's try that again. There we go. That's better for me. It's got a master reset, which is useful. It's emergency key and R5, so RS comes on. That's switching on with emergency key. Talkback, which I've been told what it does. Talkback level and PA. Noise Gate. Now, I've not come across this before. Press and hold the PTT switch and pressing Vox Noise Gate is displayed. The noise gate prevents amplification of background noise. The result is an optimized weak signal. Well, I've not seen that before. That will be something interesting again to play with on a field test with Mr. Chippy. See how that, when he gets to his final 6 mile point, how that works. Probably doesn't work on FM. Me of little faith on these things. So, press and hold the PTT switch, and a short press on mode key activates public address. So I'll press the transmit. Yeah, and it's gone into PA, and the relay's gone clickety click. So if I now switch my speaker to that, testing 1 2 3 4 5 5 4 3 2 1. We've got public address. When I let go, it goes back to receive, which could be frustrating. So how do we get out of that? We do the same again. How do we get out of that? I think you switch it off. Okay, so we'll leave it at that, and we'll go through the menus with the service manual, which it's nice to see when I come back from Mrs. What's her name. But seeing as there aren't any adjustments inside, there you go. And a parts list full of parts, how the set works. So some of the power rails, 8 volts, 5 volts and 3.3 volts. Right, I'll see you in about 4 hours. Right, so we need to put the radio into its service mode. So there's 3 things to do. One of them isn't on the front panel. And it now says TS on the screen. Right, so once you're in there, you've got to press EMG and then mode. So now we can scroll through this. So yes, this is PL is power low. So if we key up the radio, and hopefully we can go up here a bit. Yep. Oh yes, so you press the PTT to... I'm at the top of the shop and it's just a whisker away from 4 watts. So the next one they say just it's 3.9 watts. Well, that's about all it will do. FM deviation, so we need to go up to the next, which is called F2, is deviation. So let's get our little oscillator out. That seems to be as high as I can get it. Wallow. 1, 2. Most I can get out of it's about 2.1 to 2.2. So they think it should be what? They think it should be 1.9, do they? Wallow. So yeah, you can do 2.2. We'll just try that once more. I don't think we can go up any higher. No, FF is top of the shop. Wallow. That's it. That's where we are. Then there's AM power is next. So if we just move up one from, we're on F2, which is the deviation. So we move up a menu. So AL is AM power. So I'll go back to power, and that's doing 3.9 watts. So R1 is actually S meter adjustment, and that is good. We want S9 to equal 3 bars at 100 microvolts, so we'll put that on the signal generator. However, it's doing it in AM, so I've got to switch my equipment to AM. $27,255 it does this on. There we are, 217,255. So I want it to be S9. I want 3 bars. We've only got 2. So what do we do to adjust that? So simply press the up button on the mic. No, you don't. You press transmit and up. That's the opposite way. There we are. So now when I increase the signal, I get plus 30 where I want it. So I've now got S9 where I want it to be. So that's an improvement on a lot of these where you didn't have the ability to set the meter. So does that leave us with anything else? There's nothing else on the service manual. I think that's software version 2.1. So we've gone into there. You press transmit, and it comes up. It's version 2.1. So that now takes us back to FM power. And where we're at the top of the shop. So presumably we switch the radio off and switch it back on again. Yeah, it's still doing 4 watts. Now then, we want to put this into UK mode. So that's set it up. So just to go through that, I can't tell you how to put it into service mode. Once it's in service mode, it's a matter of pressing the emergency button, and then the mode button, and then it takes you into the service menu. I said there's 3 buttons you press to go into the service menu, and one of them isn't on the control panel. So low power adjustment is your first one. It'll say PL in the display. Your second one displays F2, that's deviation. Then AM LP is the power, and then finally we had the S meter adjustment, which says R1 in the display, and then finally you get the software version, which says SW in the display. So we're now out of that, and we'll go to this instruction book and see how we get into changing for UK. Frequency band selection. Turn the power while pressing the F key. Then what do we do? Press the F key again. There we go. So switch it off, switch it back on. And now we're going to, that's going to be UK FM. Sorry, start again. That is going to be CPT FM. Now it's UK FM. So now we'll put 2779125, channel 20, into the signal generator. 2779125. So we are 2779125. Turn the squelch down. And the synad for UK FM is still round about 0.3, which is fine. So we'll bring the squelch into play. So I've turned the signal generator to standby. I've set the squelch to threshold, and let's see when it comes in. I've parked the signal generator at 0.3 of a microvolt. That's where my attenuator controls I will switch on. Okay, we'll go at 1 peg. It's a bit vicious. 1.7 microvolts. Let's see whether I can do a better job of setting the squelch. Try again. No, it's a bit vicious. Best I can do is 1.4 microvolts for on and 0.9 for off. So that really is vicious. Let's see what the squelch maximum is. We'll turn that to full. 10, 30, 100 microvolts, 300 microvolts, 1 millivolt, 3 millivolts, 3 millivolts, which is again a bit harsh. So let's see how auto squelch performs. So I've now got it to auto squelch. We'll switch the signal generator back on. It nearly came in at that. So the best sensitivity on auto squelch is 0.85 of a microvolt to 0.45 of a microvolt. So it works better on auto squelch than it does on manual. So that's squelch covered. So we said talkback, PA and noise gate was interesting. We'll play at noise gate when we test it with Mr. Chippy. But I'll just see whether we can get a preview of that as I flick round the channels. So I'll do now. We've covered everything we can. We've got the power to 3.9 something watts. We've got the deviation to 2.1 to 2.2. I'll lighten that a little bit more because I'm sure it's going to be fine. The receiver's excellent and the auto squelch works well. So what we'll just do, we'll unplug the test equipment and instead we'll plug in the aerial and we'll see whether there's some kind of people out there. One niner, Roger. No. Okay, somebody really distant with the head in a bucket. So it sounds like Marvin the Paranoid Android off Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I've got a pain in the diodes. All down my left side. How do we get into that? So press and hold the PTT switch and a short press of the Vox key. Oh, it's active then. So now let's listen. Okay, well we'll flick through the channels with that activated. One niner, Roger. Okay, back to normal. Oh, so okay, right. So we've got the plus points here. We've got a manual squelch control, which has a real knob on it. So channels awkwardly there. On-off volume. Okay, it's got some functions. Some of the functions are activated with the PTT button. It's got PA, which is hidden in one of those PTT activated functions. We're able to change the colour to a sensible one. It's doing 3.9 watts. It's got good receive. Deviation should be just about adequate. I'm not into accessories that charge off 5 volts, so that's of no interest to me. And we were able to set the S meter. And although it's only 4 bars, I now know that the third bar equals what I expect to be S9. So that's a good point. Forget about the transmit bars. That's interesting. Oh, of course we're on the aerial. I'll go back to the test set because there's just one thing I want to do and that is we're going to play with the power supply. So it's supposed to be a 24 volt radio, and I've every faith that it is. So I'll put this back to the power meter. We'll turn this up to 24 volts. 15, 16, 17, 18, 20, 2, 3, 4. 24.7 it's landed on. So we'll key it up. It's actually slightly less power at 3.6 watts. Mind you, I'm keying out. I'm on the signal generator anyway. So that's fine. So now we'll go down to the other end, see whether it works. That's 13.8, and we're doing 3.8 watts ish. So until the power doesn't drop till we get to 10.8 volts. So this is another set which will do nearly 4 watts throughout its voltage range. So we're at, I'm doing 3.6 watts at 11.2 volts. So if we had a fully charged battery on its own, car battery on its own, so the engine's off, it's doing 3.6 watts, and it will maintain doing that right down to 11 point something volts. So that's good regulation of the transmitter, and it's another ideal candidate for using in a caravan or where you're going to use it on battery power. So I'm sorry I couldn't divulge the secret menu information, but you can probably work it out. As I say, one of the things isn't on the control panel, and there's 3 things in total. So it's much the same as some of the other models I've covered where I have been able to discover it for myself. That was useful to have the manual, and we've been able to work through that and turn it into from a mediocre radio to something a bit better. So I look forward to doing these on the air when Mr. Chippy gets back from his visit home for a couple of weeks. Thank you for watching The President, whatever it is. Barry 2, 12 or 24 volts.